Welcome everyone to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath, the owner of Caravan Digital. We're a digital marketing agency for direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands. Today I'm very fortunate. I'm speaking with Jordan West. He's an e-commerce investor, multi-brand owner, agency owner, and podcaster. Jordan, welcome.
Yes. You just saying all those titles really stressed me out, actually. I was like, oh man, that guy's got a lot on his plate right now.
Well, that's you. I'm sorry to say, but we'll try to keep it focused. We'll talk about one thing at a time. I'm curious on the sort of CMO side. It sounds like you kind of jump in and do strategy for clients and e-commerce brands and things like that. When people first come to you, what does that look like? What are you usually talking about? What are the strategies they don't have in place, and what kinds of things are you recommending?
Yeah, awesome question. So this is at upGrowth Commerce, the agency side. So I like to think of the agency sort of as the middle part of a wheel, right? And then our brands that we own sort of come off of the agency, right? So everything that we're trying at upGrowth Commerce, we've actually already tried at our companies and made sure that they're actually working over there. So that's a big part of what we do at upGrowth Commerce. But really what we see when we come into companies or when companies come to us, e-com companies, is that they are really good at executing, right? And they've executed. But lots of times the way that I like to picture it is they've actually gone up a ladder, but the ladder's leaning against the wrong wall, right? And so they actually don't know where to go, and especially in 2022, right? Pre-iOS 14.5, I really believe you could put your ladder on any wall and you could be successful, right? Now you really have to figure out what is that great strategy that we need. We can no longer just put money into Facebook's slot machine, right? And get all these winnings out. It is a lot different of a game now for brands, especially brands off of Amazon.
Yeah, definitely. So what does that look like now? You talk about post iOS 14 and a half. What is the strategy these days that you're discussing with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you asked. So, when it comes to that, what we first do is we take a look at all of the channels that they're already using, right? What is actually working for those brands? The first thing that I like to do is actually get really good analytics on what's working for the brand. So we like to install Triple Whale is the one that we love to use. There's some others out there. Northbeam is another example. Triple Whale has gladly sponsored our podcast, Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand. So absolutely love those guys, not just for the sponsorship, but also for the fact that we can get just incredible data. So we actually start to dig into the data of what these brands are doing on paid side, on organic side, on Google, on all of these sort of areas, and then figure out, okay, well, what's next? And generally, the first place that we like to start with brands. Now, these are not product-centric brands. These are brands, right? People who already have a brand that they've built that people are already gravitating towards. We love to start to build a community, right? So that's one of the first strategies that we come into is build a community. So build a VIP community, whether that's on Facebook or Slack or Discord or wherever that is. But a community is not email, right? Email is incredible. Email, I believe, will always be incredible. But one to many is not a community, right? SMS is not a community, right? That is one to many. Yes, you can argue with SMS that, you can get conversation going back and forth. Again, that's not community because they're not talking between each other, right? The whole idea is getting your customers and your top customers to talk amongst each other. Now, if I were to start from day one, I'd probably actually start first with an ambassador group. I believe getting ambassadors into a group together first to then supercharge your VIP group is probably the way to go. So use Dovetail for something like that. Anyway, it really comes down to getting those raving fans that you have all together in one room to talk about how much they love you. That is the very first place. And that is where you're going to get the best feedback on your products. That's where you're going to get the best word of mouth from that group. That's really where I believe that strategy should start is at community.
So that's very interesting. It sounds like one of the first strategies you look at is how do we get customers talking to each other? Can you give us an example or give us a sense of sort of how you do that or what that looks like?
Absolutely. So the reason why I really believe that it's so important is that as we continue on in this world of customer acquisition costs are just going to continue to rise, right? They're only going to get higher and higher. And so what you need as a brand is high customer lifetime value, high average order value, and high customer lifetime value. Now we buy brands, right? We look at brands, if their average order value is below $50, we don't even look at them. How could we look at a brand with an average order value of under $50? It makes absolutely no sense, because the customer acquisition cost that we're seeing these days is around there, right? For new customer acquisition cost. And we're really good at marketing, and that's where we are right now. So there is definitely something to be said there. Now, how we build community. Let's start with an ambassador group, because I really believe that is the first place to start. And it's something that people aren't really transparent about, how to build an ambassador group. And it's incredibly simple. If you're on Shopify, Dovetail is a free app that Shopify bought just this last year. Dovetail will work incredibly well to get people in to your ambassador group. They build out a landing page. You can see how many people have actually used link clicks and all of that sort of stuff. Now, I like to house those ambassadors in a Slack group. That's where I think that some of the magic happens, right? Again, it's those customers talking to each other, and that's where some of the magic happens. So first, start with that ambassador group. Get them starting to do some of your marketing for you, and then I would work backwards. Now, I didn't used to say this, guys. I've been talking about community for like 3 years on podcasts, and I never talked about the ambassador group first. But I really believe that that's the key right now, is get those absolutely red hot customers who love your brand and who would take a 20 to 30% discount on every purchase just to talk about your brand. Get those people into a room together, right? So get the hottest customers, if you can get 100 of them into a room together and get them starting to share your stories, get them engaging on your posts on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. Get them doing that, get them sharing all of those. That's the first place that I would build a community out, and build it through Slack or Discord. That way you're able to go, at channel and get a hold of all of them at any point. Then I would work backwards and create a Facebook VIP group. Now, if you have a really strong brand, you can build it around your brand, right? You can make it for us, one of our umbrella brands is Kindred. So we have the Kindred VIP group. And then our ambassador group is the Kindred Crew. So we have the Kindred VIP group, and that's where we house all of our VIP customers, people who have bought from us at least twice. They get to then join the group.
Very cool. So we're not getting them in a physical room, but we're getting them in an online room, and then kind of growing out a Facebook group from there. Is that right?
Absolutely. Now, one of the brands that we have in the States, we actually are going to be getting people into a physical room. So we have, now I call this like a super VIP group. This is our wild keepers at Keep Nature Wild. And these people actually go out, so they apply to be a part of the program, and then they go out and they pick up trash on behalf of Keep Nature Wild. So we commit to picking up a pound of trash for every item that we sell, but we actually go and do it. We don't just buy it off Plastic Bank. We actually go and do the picking up of the trash. And so we have 5,000 people in this group, it's actually almost 6,000 now, that go and actually pick up trash. And so with them, we've done a recent survey where they actually want to go do a trip together. So we're actually going to get them into a physical room, a bunch of them together. It looks like about 200 to 300 of them going and doing a volunteer trip together. Now that's the ultimate, guys. That is, you don't get there on day one, right? That is years of building real community together, not just trying to extract value from them. That's a huge thing that we see brands trying to do, is like, oh, I'm just doing this and I'm going to extract value. No. Give, and don't worry, you'll get.
Yeah, there's probably some people watching on YouTube or listening on the audio podcast. Again, that sounds great, but it sounds like a lot of work. Tell us a bit about the payoff when you do this.
Absolutely. I mean, interestingly, we were doing a gated launch this morning. Now, a gated launch is where we actually password protect the website, and we only give the password to our VIPs. Now, we don't just give it to the community. We consider SMS also, or text messaging, also a VIP channel. So we give them the password, we give our Facebook group the password, and then obviously we give our ambassadors the password as well. This morning, in the first hour, we did $30,000 in that sale, right? So that was an hour of the website being password protected that we did $30,000 in sales. So that is some of the fruits that you can expect. Again, will this happen in day one? Absolutely not. But I run a mastermind for e-commerce brands, And it's incredible to see. A lot of them have now implemented these communities, and they're seeing numbers, even with VIP groups of 2,000 to 3,000 people, they're seeing these kinds of numbers come through $100,000 days, right? Just because of the community that they built. The awesome thing is that people will then, on a sale like this, they'll then screenshot their cart and they'll share it with the whole group, right? And then that just gets people really excited, like, oh my gosh, oh, you got that? Oh yeah, I didn't realize that I needed that. And so today we'll probably start a screenshot comment thread, right, where people are just showing what they bought on the website on the sale. So and again, guys, this is not just for sales. This could also be for product launches. That's generally actually where it works the best, is on product launches, especially if you have a real amount of products that you can sell and you will sell out. That's when this works incredibly well.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there urgency? Is there scarcity here if the sale only goes so long or there's only so many products?
Yeah, totally. And there has to be that scarcity or urgency. And if you don't have it, you need to make it, right? Like otherwise there is no point in that. One of the biggest mistakes that we've seen is people running a promo and then just continuing to run the promo until they sell out of that product. No, just cut it off. You can try to launch it again, but make sure that it's actually cut off at the time to create that urgency and create some of that scarcity.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I'm sort of curious too of the mechanics of this. Is this a special Shopify page? Is this a separate domain? Kind of what does that look like?
Yes, we actually just password protect our Shopify stores. So the entire site gets password protected. Now, I've been talking about this again for the last 2 to 3 years. And so other people have then taken this idea and started to morph it in where they just password protect a certain collection because they're scared about password protecting their whole site. For me, I am not scared about that at all. There's very little consequences. The only consequence is that we get a lot more VIP members because we have a link on the page that says join our VIP group right there. So we get a ton of people asking to be a part of the VIP group during that time.
Interesting. I guess what I'm a little confused about on that, or what people might be wondering, is if you've already got traffic coming to your site, you've already got customers, if suddenly they go there and they see this, is that stopping your other sales? Like, is this just for newer brands? I'm just sort of curious about that piece.
Yeah, that's such a good question, right? And that's some of that fear, I think, that can come in, right? When people are like, oh, I don't know, like, is this going to potentially, stop other sales from happening? Maybe. Like, and am I okay with that? Absolutely. I actually want people to view our brand as exclusive, right? I want people to have to jump through hoops because that makes it worth more when they jump through those hoops. There's the whole idea of micro commitments as well, right? So when somebody actually has to find that password, right? And they can all find that password. They can join the VIP group and then go get the password. But they're making a little micro commitment when they join that VIP group there. They're making a micro commitment when they find the password and enter the password. And they're also entering, I like to call it a Rubicon, right? Where it's like this door that you can go through, but you don't want to go back the other way, right? Or you can't go back. And so our conversion rate during that time skyrockets because people have entered the password and they want to be on the website.
And they're not able to access the other products. It's all about this new launch product when that's happening.
Well, no, they can access, once they enter the website, they can access whatever they want on the website. But we're really promoting whether it's a sale or a new product launch.
Huh. That's fascinating. You're hitting on a number of principles of influence there from Robert Cialdini's Psychology, or the Influence of Persuasion, or Influence the Psychology of Persuasion. He talks about, having scarcity, having those commitments like you're talking about. So that's very cool to see that in action. You mentioned a bit about average order value as well when you're looking at investments or e-commerce sites. Is there a minimum CPA you like to see as well? You kind of mentioned $50 as that's what it costs to buy a customer. Is that kind of what you plan on as well?
It really depends. I mean, Google's Performance Max is throwing all of that out because it is so ridiculously effective. Now, pre-iOS 14.5, $25. That's what I love to spend on a new customer. If I could spend $25 on a new customer, I was laughing, right? And then iOS 14.5 comes out and our CPAs and the brands that we own basically double overnight, right? And we're like, what in the world do we do? right? Like, and so we had to go back to our unit economics and figure out what all of that looked like, find different channels. Now, I feel like we solved the Facebook issue. Is it as scalable as it used to be? No, it's not. It never will be. Without all the data that they had before. What is scalable now is Performance Max, right? That is absolutely massive. It really depends on your unit economics, what you're willing to spend. For me, I'm willing to spend. I know that at our group of brands up here in Canada, our customer lifetime value is $480. So I'm willing to spend $70 or $80 to acquire a first-time customer. Absolutely, considering 40% of our new traffic that comes through, sorry, not new traffic, our new customers that come through is word of mouth. I am very willing to get people just feeling our clothes and absolutely loving our clothes, because then they're going to tell more people. So there is absolutely no hard and fast rule of what CPA is allowable for you. You have to do your own numbers on this. That's all I would say there.
Yeah, and sometimes the payback period is longer, and if you do the math and that works, lifetime value makes it make sense. Potentially you could bankroll that.
And how much cash do you have, right? Like 2022, probably not a lot of cash right now out there. I'm seeing a lot of people. We're raising rounds at both of our big e-com companies right now, just to make sure we don't need the cash right now. But I'm always thinking about what do we need in the future as far as cash is concerned, right? Because that is, once you run out of cash, you can't market, and you're kind of left with all this inventory. So really keep that in mind, and for any of the e-com brands that are listening to this.
Yeah, it's really so key in this industry. I want to ask you about Performance Max, but before I do, you mentioned Triple Whale. Just for people who aren't familiar, we're big fans of their content, and we're interested in checking out the analytics tool. What are some questions you can answer? What are some loops you can close with Triple Whale that you cannot with Facebook Ads Manager or Google Analytics?
Yeah, that's great. So Triple Whale, it's wonderful because their dashboard. So they have Triple Whale on its own is an analytics platform. That's how they first started. Very similar to like Lifetimely. Actually, I'd say a worse version of Lifetimely. I still love Lifetimely as far as their analytics are concerned. But they created a server-side tracking pixel that they call the Triple Pixel. And the Triple Pixel is incredible at weighting what actually matters. So interestingly, they weight branded keywords at 0. So at least I believe that they do, because I've never seen any attribution come through branded keywords before. But they weight all of it where they think the actual magic happens. And so your numbers from what Facebook tells you versus what Triple Whale tells you are astronomically different, generally to the power of double when you actually look at Triple Whale. And then people will ask questions like, well, yeah, how do you know? You can click into every single customer and you can see the journey that they took. So you can see, they clicked on this Facebook ad for this sale 2 weeks ago. And then they came here, and then they clicked on a Google ad here, and then they clicked on a shopping ad here. And you can see the entire journey that they take along the way. And then with cohorts, you can actually see the regular journey that everybody takes. So for one of our brands, it's still Facebook. It's still Facebook, and then it's about a week later that they hit here, and then they hit here, and they go into all of these different places. That's the magic of Triple Whale, is being able to really see all of that data and then be able to add the greatest column in the world to add on Triple Whale is your new customer acquisition, right? Because you can get a blended new customer acquisition, but once you actually see that data and see like, oh man, Facebook, oh wow, we're getting incredible cost per acquisition on Facebook. It was like $20. But yet our new customer acquisition is actually $200, right? Is that a great prospecting ad? No, most of those people are probably on our email list anyway. So that's an incredible column as well to be able to check out on Triple Whale. Highly recommend it. If you're not going to use them, you have to use a third-party analytics platform if you're spending any amount of money in 2022. It's essential. I wish that it was built into the platforms, but they never will.
Let's get into Performance Max. So I'll lay out my cards, and we even just had an episode on this. Is in our agency, we're very skeptical of Google's automation. And so we do not like smart shopping, and we generally push clients towards standard shopping because we want to differentiate branded from non-branded, remarketing from top of funnel, and we want to see where the money's going. So we haven't done a lot with Performance Max to date. I'm hearing mixed things. how do you think about it? It sounds like you started a skeptic and now you're a convert, so maybe you can convert me as well.
Absolutely. So you should keep in mind that I start every single new platform as a massive skeptic. TikTok ads, still massive skeptic, guys. Everyone's talking TikTok ads. You see all this garbage on every single Facebook group out there. Show me the numbers, show me screenshots of you actually getting results on TikTok ads, and I will believe you. But so far, I haven't seen anything above about a 1.5 return on ad spend. So for me, I'm still incredibly skeptical of TikTok ads. I've never seen any results there. So I start off skeptical. When Performance Max came out, Smart Shopping as well, I couldn't stand Smart Shopping. I was like, this is a horrible platform. Let's just stick with us being able to pull the levers. But Google is getting incredibly smart. They have approximately 72 million data points on you. How is that even possible? How are there even 72 million data points on a person, right? But this is what they claim to have. They used to have a page set up for their YouTube advertising that said that. It's no longer there. So they probably have more data points on you than that now, right?
When you think about it, you use Google Maps, you use Chrome, you use Gmail. They know where you are. They know what you're browsing. They know who you're emailing and what about. That covers quite a bit.
Egan, if you don't use Gmail, they still can track you because you're probably emailing with somebody who has Gmail, right? When we talk about evil corporations that are going to take over the world, I wouldn't be scared of Facebook. I'd be terrified of Google. I believe it was 2014 or 2015. They told a woman that she was pregnant before she knew she was pregnant, right? That was back then. Can you even imagine the learning that they have in their system? Everything that they've been doing, I'm sure Performance Max was planned 10 years ago, right? Everything that they have been doing, all of the data that they've been gathering, every acquisition that they've been doing has been leading up unto this point. And it wouldn't surprise me, and guys, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've got lots of conspiracy theorists in my life, and I don't even know if this is a conspiracy, but I will bet you that Tim Cook and I don't even know who the CEO of Google is right now, but I will bet you that they were in a room and are like, hey, let's destroy Facebook together, right? Because now you are going to see mass amounts of money moving over to Google, and you're already seeing it as Performance Max is starting to take off. So why do I love Performance Max? Well, I'll tell you a quick little case study on some of the brands that we own. We are seeing new customer acquisition costs come in at a fifth of what they are on Facebook right now. A fifth for new customer acquisition costs. How in the world can you argue with that? It's and this is not spending a ton of money. This is about a $20,000 test. But that's a $20,000 test. And really, when you look at the statistical laws, $20,000 that's enough spend to be able to figure out whether that or not that is actually working or not. That alone is my reason for loving Performance Max.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back and forth on that. So, is that customer cost per acquisition? Is that reported out of Google? You're seeing that in Triple Whale. Where do you look to see that number?
Exactly. So that is new customer acquisition cost that I'm tracking through Triple Whale, right? So Triple Whale, is hooked up to Shopify. It's hooked up to Google. It's hooked up to all the platforms, right? And actually, the really cool thing about Triple Whale, I'm such a fanboy of these guys, is they actually show the overlap of how many customers Facebook said that they got versus Google got. And so it's two circles, well, depending on how many different platforms, but these circles kind of go together. So you can actually see, there's a bit of overlap right there.
There's a Venn diagram. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. And that was one of the things that you were always trying to solve for is would this customer have converted over here? Or did they convert over here? Did they learn about us there? All of those sorts of things. So we're looking at Triple Whale to get that stat. I still don't trust Google Analytics. Not that I think that there's anything nefarious there. I just don't think that they have the same kind of data that Triple Whale does. So for me, the reported return on ad spend that Google says on Performance Max, it's actually about the return on ad spend that we're actually seeing across clients at upGrowth Commerce, across the brands that we own, is generally about 20 to 30% lower return on ad spend through Triple Whale, right? But we now can see the new customer acquisition cost. And that's where, bar none, it is about a quarter to a fifth of what we're seeing on Facebook for new customers. So it's doing something, right? And so, I'm sure that I'd love to actually hear your skeptical questions on it, because I've had all of these skeptical questions, and I feel like I'm preaching. I'm a believer now, you know?
They're the same ones for smart shopping. And so I guess question one is, how do you know that wasn't branded? Those weren't branded search terms.
Absolutely. So if somebody comes through and they typed in a branded search term, we still have all of our branded campaigns running, right? So yes, at some point is PMax going to steal from those campaigns? Absolutely, and they'll probably take some of that that there. But either way, we were already counting those conversions in branded keywords. So I like to weigh, one thing we're not talking about here is post-purchase surveys, right? Where people found out about us. And so I like to weigh all of that data in together as well. So I find out, did they find out about us on YouTube, a search engine? All of those we're going to attribute to Google, right? So we're also taking whatever the customer thinks into account there as well. So yes, people are going to come through on branded search terms. If they're new customers, welcome. That's fine. Performance Max, you can take that. I'm okay with your black box being the most sophisticated marketing tool that has ever been, and a few of those branded search terms coming through on new customers. That's essentially, that is what you have to be able to come to that conclusion. Otherwise, you're just not going to try Performance Max.
Gotcha. Okay. I think on that point, I'm not convinced, because I expect that your customer acquisition cost is going to be much lower if branded search is counted. So that's not a surprise to me. And so if that's mixed in there, like if you suddenly, like a lot of agencies do, if you mixed your branded and non-branded all in one campaign, suddenly your CAC is going to go down. Like I expect that, because people are hearing about your brand elsewhere, they're searching for it, you're paying for clicks you may or may not have to pay for, and they're much farther down the funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. But what you can't argue with is new customer acquisition cost alongside of new customers being acquired and taking money away from your other acquisition channels and moving them over, right? That's why I think that having a one-pronged approach and just looking at that, right, and worrying about like what I actually feel like that mentality is skipping over the pound to get the penny, right? Worrying about that is what you're trying to do is you're trying to break out those search terms and like I had Qasim Aslam, the absolute expert, runs the biggest Google Ads agency in the world, come and talk about PMax, and that's exactly what he hears from massive brands. Like these are like billion-dollar brands of like, well, we want that out of there, and he's like, you can't do that. You can't take out those search terms because it doesn't work like that with PMax, right? And it's so hard to get over, especially for people who are incredibly good on Google and good in like Skag world, right? It's so hard to get over that fact. So I'm with you, Egan. Like, this is a mental hurdle that I've had to come over as well.
Yeah. Let me give a scenario. So let's say you're advertising on paid social. People see your ad on Instagram. They come to the site or they don't, whatever. They Google you later. No one else is competing at the auction. Like if you had not bid on your branded term, they would have just clicked the SEO result. It wouldn't have cost you anything. So it's a PMax ad. It's a branded search term. They click and buy. That Google ad is now getting credit for that sale, or it's part of the attribution in Triple Whale. But what it doesn't tell you is if we stopped this and we didn't run on that term, would we have made the sale anyway?
It doesn't tell you that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But what it does show you is that whole customer journey. Did they click on that on Facebook first? Right, because we can actually see all of that. Where did they discover us? So that's the beauty of Triple Whale, right? Is you do actually have some of that insight, and then hook up Inquire Labs or No Commerce in there on the post-purchase side, and you can actually get a pretty robust picture of what they were doing.
I'm curious also, do you know on Triple Whale, is it cross-device, cross-browser too? So I click from smartphone, I look, I leave, I go to desktop, I buy. Does Triple Whale know I'm the same person?
As far as I know, that would be a really good question. I'm going to make sure that Rabba comes on this podcast and you can ask him that.
My other objection is maybe a little less compared to the branded search one, is just if it's remarketing, then it's really closer to middle or bottom of funnel. If it's top of funnel, first click ever, that's different, and I expect different CPAs, different cost per customer acquisition. Do you get any insight whether this was remarketing or whether this was the first time,
No, Egan, it is a black box, and that is why I was so skeptical of it at first, right? Like, you don't know what terms they're clicking on. You don't have any control. Now, you do have an insane amount more control as a good marketer rather than a PPC specialist, right? Facebook people love Performance Max, right? People who are raised in Facebook land love Performance Max because it's all about copywriting and headlines and images and YouTube videos and how all of that fits in against audience signals. And I mean, I know we don't have enough time. We're kind of getting to the close end of the time, and I'm loving this conversation so much. But there's like good marketers love PMax because you can then actually start to market versus just. And guys, I'm a PPC guy at heart. Like that's how I grew up, and I love PPC, but I love Performance Max even more.
Yeah, it sounds like that combination too of Performance Max and Google Ads, but then also you're digging deeper with Triple Whale to really understand what's cost per new customer acquisition. I could see that would be really insightful, and you've helped me understand that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those great questions. I wish we could go longer on that.
I know. I'll have to have you back on. I'm excited to come on your podcast. Jordan West, tell us a little bit about where people can find you and who's a good fit for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to find me, LinkedIn is the best place to go. So just search Jordan West Marketer. Just search for the worst looking guy on there, and that's me. And then also upgrowthcommerce.com is where we are. We work with mid 7-figure to high 8-figure brands, again, on the strategy and execution side of whatever that looks like marketing wise. Upgrowthcommerce.com, and yeah, that's where you can find us.
What's the podcast?
Oh, and our podcast, Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand, is the podcast. Yes, thank you for that. Guys, if you want to just come over and listen to an episode, if you want to hear me rant and rave all about Performance Max, that is where you can find that. And I do episodes with founders once a week as well. We generally release 2 to 3 episodes a week. So,
love it. Jordan West, thank you for coming on and sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Thanks for having me.